Okay, I'm guessing. Yep, we're live streaming now. Hi, everybody. Hello, friends. Welcome to Delusional Confidence. Yes, let's start this now. Before I forget, welcome to Delusional Confidence. Let me get my sound. This is a podcast between me, Emily, and Ida. You can find me, Emily, on Emily's Awakening on YouTube and Instagram. And this here is Ida, my good friend, who is at The Chilling Therapist on YouTube and Instagram. And we talk about well, I like to kind of revise this now. We talk about being self-employed. We talk about having interesting philosophical ideas, and we talk about how we're navigating like the self-development journey and being self-employed and how we're navigating business and that kind of journey. So welcome. I am in the tub for the first time ever, live streaming from the tub. Ida asked me why. Ida asked me why I'm doing this, and my response is it sounded super relaxing, and I've been starting my days with a tub, like with a bath, and it's the best fucking feeling ever. So I'm like, let's just do this live anyway, because like fuck it. Ida, do you have anything to add to that intro?
I think you did a great job on the intro. You know, I'm hoping that everyone listening is doing well. I'm glad that we're doing well and we're back, and I'm excited to see what it is that we're going to delve into, or what's going to come up, which is interesting. Yeah, I'm excited. Do you have anything in mind
to talk about? Yeah, I do, kind of. Yeah, because I'm just going to navigate to like a comfortable place, because we are both in interesting parts of our journey right now. Like, we're always in interesting parts of our journey, but we're going through, I would say, kind of maybe tense times or challenging times. And I would go so far to say, because we voice messaged about this earlier this week, we're both in quite good spirits, but we are just feeling the journey and feeling the life lessons that are happening right now, you know? So I guess I just wanted to make that note for everybody here, because we like to be authentic here. We like to be open about our challenges. A lot of people online don't do that. So I guess I wanted to make note of that. Like, I'm going through an interesting time with finances and navigating all of that and being super financially independent. That's my goal. And kind of struggling with that, I would say, you know, like, I don't feel like I'm in this struggle. If you have listened to this before, I don't like to use that word, because I just feel like it makes me feel stuck. But it's just, you know, it's like, it feels at times like an uphill battle. And then at the same time, I'm seasoned enough in the self-development world to know that like good times are coming. And I've learned amazing lessons, just unmistakable, unique, life-changing lessons just in this past month. And I just wanted to see where you were at, with that. Version.
No, so far so good. I guess this is something that we've always known, that, you know, once you say yes to your soul's calling, it's going to come with challenges. It's going to come with, you know, certain things that you need to navigate. So I think it's not that I don't know that it's a part of it. And I think sometimes I feel like if we knew the whole thing, we'll probably say, yeah, no, not for me. Sorry. But that's why I feel like, you know, it's kind of revealed to us as and when. Yeah. And, you know, I think every time a part is revealed, it's a testament to how far one has come. In this case, how far I've come, because I think your character in these situations kind of shows how far you've come, because it's like, it's not that you're not going to face any challenge, but it's like when the challenges come, how's your mindset? You know, how are you feeling about it? Are you giving up? You know, fine, you might cry here and there, but I think for me now, it's a matter of realizing that, yes, in the middle, you're still gonna fall 10 times, but it's how fast you rise this time, because I feel like when you're first starting your journey, when you fall, it might take a bit of time to rise, because it's like, but now it's kind of like, okay, this is one of those, yep, let's keep it moving type thing, without forgetting that obviously you're still in it, and without kind of sugarcoating it and making it seem like it's perfect, because nothing is ever perfect. But it's character building, and it's part of the journey, and it's accepted. And right now I'm practicing deep surrender, deep trust, and and just seeing what follows after that, really.
100%. I love, isn't it fucking cool that we're documenting our goddamn journeys? Like, it's just, I feel very passionate about that. With this podcast, I know that that's what we say, like, oh yeah, we're documenting our process, but it doesn't really hit until these moments of like, oh yeah, Ida and I have a fucking podcast episode every week, and we talk about what we're going through, and it makes us able to document our steps in this process. And I'm not a big documenter. Like I journal and then I like throw the pages away. I never want to like be organized and write a chart about how I'm feeling each day and track the patterns. I like to do it in a more organic way, but this way is so cool. And I bring that up right now because it brings me back to about a month ago when we were recording together, and I was saying, yep, I'm in this really pressured zone. That's kind of when these challenging times started for me. And you were like, well, you're being called to make millionaire decisions right now. And how are you going to behave? How are you going to hold up during this time? Are you going to give up, or are you going to persevere? And here we are still persevering. You know what I mean? I wanted to bring that up specifically, your approach to these moments. And we all know, those of you who have listened to this podcast before are in Ida's audience. We talk about you, Ida, a lot as someone who's very mentally stable. I would say that's part of your brand. Obviously, you are trained as a psychotherapist, and you're high integrity in that. And I think your approach to life is very low drama, sound, objective, like we've talked about in the past. And it's a great message for everybody, I think. The idea of like, if challenging things are happening, yeah, that's hard. It's difficult, but it's not I think most people take challenging times as a sign that they should give up. And you're saying the exact opposite. So to me, this is very impactful.
Yeah, because challenging times, as I see it, doesn't mean that it's not working. I think it's a matter of, it's actually working. And I think the best way I always remind myself that it's working is that my life, my reality right now is of the decisions I've made in the past. My reality right now is like decisions I made 5 years ago. That's what I'm experiencing right now, right?
Whoa.
And so it's going to take a while for the decisions that I've been making in the last year to catch up. So just because it hasn't caught up, it can seem like it's not working, but it's a catch-up thing. It's like, just see your present moment right now as decisions you made 2-3 years ago. And so the decisions you have been making the last 1 year, it's going to show up. And that's why people quit just before they see the result, because it's like, it gets to a point where you're like, oh my goodness, how many times am I going to fail? But it's not the decisions you're making or you've been making recently. That is from, way back when. So I think once we recognize that, and we recognize that, oh, okay, these are decisions. And really and truly, when you look back, you realize that, 2-3 years ago, you were not making these decisions.
Whoa.
And everything kind of catches up eventually. And that's where you're at right now. And so the new decisions will catch up too. Just give yourself time, trust and surrender. And I mean it, with y'all. I always say I'm never going to say something that I'm not experiencing. Like I would never tell my clients to do something that I am not willing to do or have not done. So if I'm saying, it's going to work out because I'm believing with you, that it's coming. We just need to be patient. We just need to, delusionally recognize that it's going to happen and see it and just believe it so much and hold the vision. Yeah, but that's where I'm at. Doesn't mean it's not difficult. Doesn't mean it's not challenging. Doesn't mean there aren't moments that you're going to cry. There aren't moments that you want to scream, yell. It doesn't mean that. You get to do all of that and still continue believing, and trusting. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally mind-blowing perspective. Haven't even thought about this. It's also like, maybe I've heard of a similar concept, but I haven't really been able to, you hear the concept again and again and again, and you're like, yeah, that makes sense, but it doesn't quite hit. And it's starting to hit right now, listening to you say this. And it makes me realize, and I hope everyone else realizes this too, because I know if you're watching this fucking podcast episode or listening to it, I know that you're making, like I just said, I know that you're making different decisions than you made 4 years ago, because you're interested. Yeah. If you're watching this and have gotten this far and are listening right now, you're interested in self-development. So I know you're making different decisions, more empowered decisions, more informed decisions, more wise decisions now. So imagine, this is what I went to when I started to hear you say that. What the fuck is my life going to look like in 4 years? It's going to be amazing. Like, I'm just proud of the stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Exactly.
Magic.
Exactly. But you got to continue making the decisions that are correct for you to get there. But it's a challenge. And I know you don't like using the word struggle. I go to challenge quite a bit, because it's not meant to be. It's meant to be, it's not meant to be easy, but I feel like it's meant to be simple, but simple doesn't always mean easy. Like simple is like, okay, recite A, B, C, D to Z. It's not easy to do that, but it's simple, the steps, So that's kind of how I see it. And it's funny because I think a thought that popped into my mind, that usually thoughts pop into my mind, I won't even entertain it. But this is a thought that has been popping into my mind quite a bit, because it's kind of like, okay, you look on social media and there's so many business coaches, motivational speakers, just so many, there's just so much noise. Really and truly, there's just so much noise. Like today I was like scrolling and I was just like, oh, please, like just stop. Because there's just so much noise, and no one is talking about, you figuring out what's correct for you. No one's telling you, hey, don't worry about what everyone else is saying and figure out what's correct for you. Everyone's saying, I've got the 5-step to help you change this. I've got the 10 steps to help you change that. And it's just, it really frustrates me, because I'm like, at what point are we going to make people have the freedom to do what's correct for them? Like, how long are we going to listen to someone else's? Like, I think for me right now, I gravitate towards people telling me, hey, this is what works for me. I wonder what's going to work for you. Instead of like, these are my 5 steps, blah, blah, blah. These are my 10 steps, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not even saying this, like, as I'm saying this, you've popped into my mind because I know you teach, people your step, but I feel like it's not something that you're imposing on them. Like, this is the only way, type thing. It's like, this is a blueprint for you, but you get to go from there. I feel like that's very different to saying, if you don't use this, you're screwed. And that's what I keep hearing. No, seriously, I keep hearing it everywhere. And do you know how detrimental that is? Because I feel like people hear that. Well, gone are the days where I heard that and I kind of felt like, okay, wow. So if I don't do that, I'm never going to succeed, because it seems like they're succeeding. You look at them and it looks like they're succeeding. And okay, another thought is coming up that I'll bring up later. So remind me, hopefully I don't forget. But it kind of seems like they are all succeeding. Okay, but I'm going to bring up this thought now. However, one thing I'm noticing is that all the people who seem to be succeeding so quickly and so fast are the people who are saying, I have the 1, 2, 3 step. I have the this, I have the that. Like business coaches, like I'm looking at not just generally in life, but I'm looking online and I'm seeing that a lot of the people who are talking about, I made $1 million a year, blah, blah, are the people who are more or less, telling people, I have this way. And this is the only way, come follow me. And we all kind of flock to that person because we all want to be as successful as them. But then what we're doing is not business coaching.
Right.
Do you get what I mean? It's kind of like, if we're like helping someone to like, for instance, personal development, and we want to become this successful, want to become as successful as that business coach, it might not look like that. It might take a bit longer because, again, when we go on the hierarchy of needs, it's kind of like people are not thinking about personal development. That's not what comes into people's mind straight away. People are thinking about survival. They're thinking about food. They're thinking about, how to improve their relationship. They're thinking about, so it's almost like if you're not in these fields, it will take a bit longer because like personal development for some is a luxury. Fortunately enough, I feel like we're moving towards where people realize that it's actually a need. It's not a luxury. Yeah. But for now, we're still at a place where it still seems like it's a luxury to people. Mm-hmm. So of course, people are not going to flock to you in that way that they are going to this business coach, whatever. But yeah, that's just something that I'm noticing where I kind of feel like a lot of the people who are telling everyone else what to do and this is the way it works seem super successful. And so it's almost like we chase that because we want to be that. But I don't want to say they're successful because they're business coaching, but it's like everyone wants their business to thrive. So obviously if you're telling them this is what I did and my business thrived, I feel like it's going to be, I don't want to, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to, it's not dilute. What's the word? For lack of a better word, like I don't want to undermine someone else's success. That's not what I want to do. Right. But I kind of want to point out that I'm noticing that all the people, it seems that they're super successful and they are, but it's because they've got these steps that are your savior, basically. So that's kind of what I'm starting to kind of see. Like, I feel like there's a lot of noise and the ones causing the noise seem like, they're successful pretty quickly. And yeah, I think I'll let you comment on that before if you had any comments.
This is a fucking awesome topic, but before I comment, did you want to say the other thing that you thought about while you were talking?
Oh, I said it. Okay. Yeah, I was like, it had to do with like me noticing that, business, because it's almost like I feel like everyone who's kind of like, oh, I made 2 million this year, blah, blah. I'm looking at them and they're all business coaches telling you this is the way. And then we all seem to like follow. And I'm adding myself because I feel like we all kind of play this part. And I guess this is where there's, now people are coming out to say there's like trauma bonding in terms of like, they kind of tell you, hey, this is the only way. And out of FOMO, you kind of feel like, okay, I need this. Without this, I can't make it. You know, if I don't do it this way, it's not going to work for me. And I think I'm getting to a point where I'm like, no, I want us to get to a place where, fine, we get to show people that, hey, I did it this way and it worked for me. And it worked because I did it my way. It's going to work for you because you're going to do it your way.
Yes.
That's what I kind of want to see more of now. I don't want to see this, you know, this is the only way thing anymore, you know?
And we all know that's fucking bullshit. Everybody knows. Okay, let me say this. If you're in the alternative space, as in alternative business, alternative health, doing something different than typical society, self-employed, you know that there's not only one way to do things. If you thought there was only one way to do things, then you would not be like in this space right now. I'm sure there's some exceptions, but like when we really think about it, we fucking know there's not one way. I don't even care if there's someone who thinks that it has to be the practical way on here. You know, everybody knows people who have gained success in different ways. You can't be on this earth. You can't be in society. You can't know other people without knowing that some people create success different ways than others. Even if you're like full on in corporate and all of your friends are in corporate, I'm just thinking of like a typical example, and you only know people in corporate, everyone has some family member of a friend, someone you know or have heard of, or some famous person. Everybody fucking listens to music. Look at musicians. They created success in all different ways, crazy ways. Every fucking person who has access to technology knows someone who created success in a different way than what's considered the norm in society. So because we all know that,
right,
we are aware that it's possible to create success in different ways, yet we follow the person that says there's only one way, even though—
But why do we do that?
Well, we want to feel sure and we want to feel guided. It's interesting. I mean, this is my opinion, but like I was talking about this on live yesterday on Instagram. We have been conditioned in a society that has led us to believe there is an authority figure that knows better than us. Whether that be, I'm going to take it here, whether that be God, and I'm a believer in God, but whether that be God, whether that be a teacher, whether that be a mentor, whether that be a coach, whether that be a boss, whether that be an employer, whether that be a landlord. We have been conditioned in society to believe that we don't know best, somebody else does. Even if our soul is screaming for us to listen to it and do things our way, we're terrified of that. It doesn't feel safe because we grew up in a society that told us that there is somebody else outside of you that knows what's best for you more than you do.
Exactly. And it's like even this whole concept of, in order for you to sell online, you need to become an authority figure. And it's like, why have we even believed in that? Why? And the funny thing is, as consumers, that's actually what we're looking for. Like, we don't want to go to the person who doesn't seem like this authority figure. Like, we all want to go to this person who seems like they know it all. Why have we allowed that? Why? Like, what part of us thinks that? I think it's just a part of us that feels inadequate. Because there could be two coaches here. You see that, like, this coach could really help me. Like, they're going through it with me. Literally, for instance, if you wanted to cure a certain disease, this coach is actually going through it. This coach is, and when I think about this particular coach, our friend Meg comes up, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like,
folks.
You know, from that perspective, so it's kind of like, you know, you see that she's going through it, you see that, and yet someone will be like, oh, I want to go to the coach who's only talking about it, who only has like book knowledge about it. And I think we're very concerned with people who have like book knowledge.
Experts.
It's like, yo, when is it gonna click? When is the switch going to flip for us to realize that no, these so-called, I like to check my energy in these, because I feel like it's not about, and this is something I talk about quite a bit, I don't feel like change comes about when you tear down, because at the end of the day, I'm part of this industry. So it's not a matter of like tearing down the industry, but it's a matter of being a part of the industry and still recognizing certain things that are not healthy for the general population, who again, we've spoken about the fact that personal development has been for a long time a luxury. So right now, people are getting to a place where they're realizing that, okay, maybe it's actually a need, right? And so if people are now coming around, we don't want to create an environment that still, tells them that in this need, there's still a boss, there's still hierarchy, like, do you get where I'm going with this? Because it's kind of like, where do they find the freedom? Because if it's no longer luxury, because, okay, we look at luxury and we look at, okay, luxury is for a certain type of people. A certain type of people can afford luxury, right? But once luxury becomes a need, it should be open to all, open for all, accessible to all. And yet, now that it's becoming a need and we're promoting the fact that, personal development is a need, we're still not making it open to all, accessible to all. We're still saying, you know what, in order for you to get through, you still need a VIP pass. You still need to go through like an expert. It's kind of like you left one jail to come to another jail. That's how it seems to me.
That's 100% it. You left one cult to go to the other cult.
Go to another, where you in your mind, you're coming to find freedom. You're coming to free your mind, and yet you're entangled again, because you've come to this point that's like, oh, don't listen to yourself. You need to, find experts. And I'm like, no, I don't think the coaching industry or the therapy industry, whatever, psychological industry, psychology industry, I don't know, personal development industry, I don't think it should be about experts. I think it should be about real life people, relatable people who are going through stuff, who have been able to figure out a way they did it, who are helping other people. How I see it's kind of like holding someone's hand to jump off the cliff, because you've jumped before. Even though it was difficult for you the first time, you muster the courage to jump. And now another person wants to jump, they're shaking, and you're like, listen, I got you. Hold my hand. I jumped before. Trust me.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, oh, if you want to jump, trust me, you need this parachute. Like, I'm the only person with this parachute. And if you don't use this particular parachute, you are going to drown, or you are going to die. You're going to fall off. You're not, like, it's not going to work out for you. And that's how I see it, because everyone seems to think that they have the answer, when really and truly, you only have the answer for yourself. You don't have it for somebody else.
100%.
Anyway, when I get passionate, but yeah, that's just,
I love the vibe you're in today. I love the vibe.
Yeah, and I'm really passionate about it, because I think that's why it's like minority of people seem to be so successful, because like success should belong to all. It should be available to all, but I kind of feel like, because we've created this thing where it's like only experts, get to play this game. It's almost like if you come along and you just want to be relatable, fine, it will catch on. It takes a bit more time to catch on, because people would turn to so-called experts first.
I agree with everything. Several things I want to say. I fucking love this conversation. Several things I want to say. One, it's amazing to see you in this space. I know, like, this is something that we both have, our message in this world. Mm-hmm. We both have this message of, you know what's best for you.
Yeah.
And this message of authenticity, which is like telling people that we have struggles too, and how fucking stupid it is. Like, I'm not trying to hate, but like, let's just call it what it is. In my opinion, it's stupid for people to pretend like everything's going great and not share any of the bad stuff. I think obviously, like you were saying, Ida, I tell people this in my business school too. You can become successful by just pretending to be whatever. Like you can, well, like, why? Why? Anyway, and I don't think that everyone has to be super how do I say this?
Transparent.
No, I didn't mean to say that. I don't think everyone has to be personal with their audience. I think you can have a faceless business and there's nothing wrong with that. But like, what kind of intention and energy are you putting into it? Even if you have a faceless business and you're selling products, for example, you can infuse the intention of the business in a way where you're saying, we all have challenges and this is one solution, one route you could take. Or you could infuse the intention of, I know what's best. You follow me or you're probably going to fail. And you could use the word probably or not, or you can hint it, or you can vibe with it. And it doesn't matter, because when you have that energy, when you kind of even just hint at the fact that the other ways will not work for your client or your customer, it's very irresponsible. And if I do say so myself, I know for a fact, Ida and I have both been through coaching experiences where we had a coach that said, there's one way to do this. And you could, the vibe was like, you could do it the other way, but are you going to get as good results? No. That's so fucked up. That's like giving people
very traumatizing.
Huh?
It can be very traumatizing because it can seem like there's something wrong with you. You're the problem.
And you're just creating limiting beliefs for someone else. You're saying it's not going to work this other way. That can hold. I mean, it's up to us. We are responsible for what happens inside of our minds. I'm going to say that right now, right? I can't try to control what's going to happen in other people's minds. I'm sure I'm eating raw meat right now. It triggers a lot of people. Okay. Like I'm just, you know what I'm saying? But it's just unnecessary and untrue and low integrity and irresponsible to give the people the limiting belief that if they try another way, they're going to fail, because it's not true. And it's coming from a scarcity mindset of whoever says it, whatever coach or authority figure or expert who says my way is the only way. They're just scared. They're not right. They're just afraid that they're going to lose their clients, and they're afraid that they can't attract people into their audience genuinely, because they feel like they have to scare people into paying them. And it's fucking stupid. Okay, so here's another thing I want to bring up. I'm not a fan of experts. I have conversations with people who I want to bring on my podcast. And it's funny the amount of people that say, well, I'm not an expert on this, so I don't know if you would really want to interview me.
You want your personal life experience.
100%. It's shocking, Ida. So many people, even if they are I would say 40% of the people I ask to come on my podcast say, well, I'm not an expert on this, so I don't know if you want that. I'm like, fuck the fucking experts. I don't want experts on my podcast. And what I say to them is, the only people who resemble experts that come on my podcast are sexperts. And let's keep it that way. I'll take all of the sexperts on my podcast. I love that. But I don't want the experts on there. I attribute experts to, like, who even are experts? You don't need a degree to be a fucking expert. Who's defining who an expert is and who an expert isn't? You know who's defining it? Fucking media and politics. I know I take this to a conspiracy place a lot, but I just know it's true. Like, do the research, you guys, or don't do the research. There's no specific qualification to be a fucking expert. We're all experts about whatever we've experienced in our lives, because we're living our fucking lives for decades. We're all experts on what's happening in our life experience. So I just think it's a false facade. It's a mask of I know better than you. I don't find it helpful to be like, oh, we have an expert on here. And I've just seen that in my life, because do you know how many goddamn experts I've followed?
Boy.
Who have misled me, who have said, oh, try this diet, do this thing, do this mindset, and it didn't work. I tried it and it didn't work. So I have motherfucking proof that they did not know what was best for me. You know who knew what was best for me? Me. Because I had to combine so many different protocols to get what I want in life. And one more thing, Ida, and then I want to toss the ball back to you. You mentioned I have a step-by-step process for a couple things. One, gaining confidence. I have a course called the Confidence Course, and it's like I don't even remember how many steps, but it's a step-by-step process. And I have a manifestation process that is a step-by-step process. Here's the thing though, I couldn't even tell you how many steps are in those processes. Why? Because I don't think about it. Oh, here's my 4 steps. Here's my 5 steps. I created these steps to break shit down for people. It's not because, oh, you need this step, you need that step. I created the steps to simplify things for people and to make it easier for people who do think logically. There are probably people in my programs who are like, oh yeah, that step, I'm going to go to that step. That's why I created that, to better explain my beliefs and my processes for things. I'm not a step-by-step person. I don't live step-by-step. I don't fucking remember what my steps are because I've kind of just memorized the process. I break it down into steps for other people so they can better grasp what I'm trying to teach them. So when I market my programs and I say it's a step-by-step process, it's a tool for people to get an idea that this is an organized course and it can help me simplify my life. I don't live by the step. I live by the steps without thinking about the steps, and they're not needed. And guess what? My courses won't work for everybody. There are some people that I'm sure they won't work for. And I don't believe that those people are attracted to my work in the first place, because I've never gotten someone saying my products don't work for them, because I've just believed that I attract the right people in who will, if you're inspired or helped by the words that I'm saying to you right now, you will be helped by my program. But I'm not going to come up and say, oh, this program works for every single motherfucker on earth. I've heard people say that so much. I'm like, how do you know? How do you know that?
That's funny. No, and that makes so much sense. It makes perfect sense, because I remember, I think it was Tuesday, I was really inspired to share something on my story. And as I shared it, I was about to go on live to share the bigger story about what the mini part I shared on my story. And all of a sudden, something started coming through, like, and then I called it the stages of your greatest expression. But that was like me, it's like this thing came through and it's like, okay, break down what the stages were for you. What stages did you go through to get to where you are right now? And so it makes perfect sense. Yes. Now that when you spoke about it, I was like, yeah, that's what it is. Because when someone comes on, I'm like, okay, these are the stages I went through and this is how it felt for me. So see if any of these stages fits for you. Because then if, for instance, you're able to be like, oh, I'm going through this too right now. I could be in this stage right now. And in this stage, Ida did this and it helped her. Let me try that, you know? So it makes perfect sense now that you spoke about it.
Yeah, I love that. And that's exactly my experience. It feels really good for everybody out there. Like I said, you're an expert on your life. So like, if you notice that you handled pick any challenge that you got through, there were steps that you took. You can choose to look at them as steps or not. But let me say this, it felt amazing for me to look back at, wow, I was we're all manifesting all the time, but like I use the same process every time. And it was a great reflection of the fact that I am an expert on my life and what I've accomplished. Oh my God, I use these same steps every fucking time.
everybody can do that. And even though I don't think, okay, step one, Emily, what do you do? Step two, what do you do? I don't think like that in everyday life. And I know some people do, and that's amazing. We need people like that on earth. I'm just very flowy with it. But nonetheless, it was so fun for me to detail out all the steps and break it down, to just take inventory of wow, this is what I've done in my life. But yeah, I was just very aware that if I were to not break it down in steps, it would seem way more complicated than it really is, and it would seem like mumbo jumbo. So yeah. Anyway, so going back to like the people who say, oh yeah, oh my God, I want to say this. I'm curious to hear what you think. Going back to the people who say that the way I do things is the way. Here's the thing, Ida. I don't really follow people in the coaching industry at all anymore. We all know who I love on this podcast. We know I love Gay Hendricks. We know I love Amanda Francis. Do I follow any other coaches? Not really. I follow you. I follow Meg. I am Meg Dahl, by the way. She does like eating disorder recovery and self-love work for anyone who's interested on Instagram. I don't really follow anybody else. So like after we got out of a coaching program that we were in together, I stopped following like a lot of people, even if I really liked them as people. And I think that hey, look, the people that are saying this is the only way, although I believe that's an irresponsible message, they're still helping a lot of people. Just by default, they're helping some people, which is awesome. I just think they're hurting people too. But hey, good, you're helping some people, good for you. Like, not saying that sarcastically, I mean it. I guess they just haven't figured out another way yet. I don't know. But I unfollowed a lot of coaches that I still respect as people, I like as people, but I just couldn't handle their content. And this is going to sound dramatic, but it's just what it felt to me. It felt kind of, the way it mixed with my view on life was a toxic mix. They had me questioning myself because they were so intense and like, this is the way. And I also noticed the way they were working. And I saw, from my perception, they were hustling. I don't know if they're actually hustling, but I perceived them to be hustling. And that was toxic for me because my message is different. My message is, you can look, I mean, hustle means something different to everyone, but my message is you don't have to burn out to create success. I'm in the fucking bathtub right now, right? I enjoy this brand that I have of you can find a way to make your days relaxing as well as building a business. That is what I live for at the moment.
Yeah.
So I unfollowed basically everyone in the coaching industry. Who I follow most now is people that are like homesteading, enjoying their lives. They have very simple lives, but very meaningful lives. And then I follow some random people that I think are very interesting, like Russell Brand, and just funny, famous people. I don't follow that many famous people because honestly, some of them, I tell my social media audience this a lot. If anyone feels dark to me, if there's something dark about them, or like, I'm not saying they're toxic people, but if the way I perceive them is kind of feels toxic, or like, I hate to call people aren't toxic, but like, if something just feels dark or off, I don't follow them at all.
Yeah.
And that's how I've been able to make social media. I'm on social media all fucking day. I don't feel like it's a detriment to my health right now. I feel like it's enriching. I feel like it's wholesome. I feel like I'm vibing with people on there. And that was the thing that I did to start to cultivate that relationship to social media. So I gotta say, I don't follow other business coaches besides Amanda Francis because, again, it's kind of like my vibe, Ida, ear muffing, because I'm like, I don't want their, like, social media is hypnotizing and can be manipulative because when you're looking at all of this stuff, it gets into your subconscious brain. So I don't want their material to get into my subconscious brain.
Because then all of a sudden your message starts shifting and you don't even know why.
Yep.
You know? So it's like people who affirm your message and people who are living, you know, the message that you're currently preaching. It doesn't mean it won't shift or change, but that's where we're at. Why does it seem to work for other people and it doesn't seem to work for others?
Business?
I knew you were going to say that, but there was no, it doesn't have to be business or anything. It's just life in general.
Why is what
Yeah,
is it?
it's something I was thinking about the other day. I'm like, wow, it seems like things come so easy to some, like in terms of like, they're like, oh, you know, I'm doing this. And then like they start their business and then obviously, you know, things seem to come together. I also have an answer for the question I'm answering, which I kind of feel like, again, it's all the decisions they made back in the day that's like catching up now. So it can seem like it's an overnight success, but it's not.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. That's what I was gonna say. I mean, I have some follow-up questions, but like, how long have these motherfuckers been in the self-development journey? Exactly like you said, even if they haven't been in business for a while, like, here's someone that comes to mind. And before I say this example, I want to say, I have studied, I'm a broken record, but whatever. I studied millionaires, okay? I study millionaires. I study people who seem like they're living the life, loving life, super successful and not super burnt out. They're like building other things in their lives as well. They've been in the business for 10 years. They started their business at least 10 years ago, six minimum. Maybe they're just a millionaire at 6 years, but when they're fully multimillionaire, 10 years at least. Almost every time. I know there are exceptions. I know there are people that blow up. 99% of the people that I've studied, 10 years they've been in the fucking business, going for it, dedicated, 100% dedicated, whether they're hustling or not, they're mentally fucking dedicated. Now, what example I'm thinking of right now, Teresa Piela, she came on my Rude Awakening a Health podcast.
Mm-hmm.
She started her business around the same time as me.
Okay.
She does EFT tapping. She works with people on physical health and mental health. She mixes the two, which is cool. EFT tapping for physical health. She has like 11 to 15,000 people in her audience. She started her Instagram around the same time as me. I have 1,600 people in my audience, okay? So this is an example which I think you might be alluding to, Ide, where I know she started her business around the same time as me and her audience is 15 or 11 times the size of mine, 10 times the size of mine, whatever. She has been on her health journey, working on her health, because she came on my podcast, right? I talked to her about her journey. She's been working on her health her whole fucking life. She's been, you know, in and out of hospitals. She's gone through the shit. There was one point where she was just drinking a certain type of formula to get nutrients in her body because she couldn't process any other type of food. Zero food, just formula in the fucking hospital. She's been working on that shit. I don't want to say exactly, but I know in college even she was doing that. In college, I was partying in art school, not working with self-development at all, doing the opposite of self-development. I mean, it's all part of the journey, right? No regrets, but not the opposite of self-development. I was creating a lot of trauma for myself in college, right? Like you say, Ide, on the path, whether they start the fucking business or not, a certain amount of time on the fucking path. And guess what? Teresa was dedicated as fuck for decades because she, you know, she's amazing, but she also had to be. And going back to this, it was her life. Her life was on the line. Her fucking physical life was on the line. And going back to this idea that this awesome philosophy that you're bringing up, which I just really also believe is part of your message and your purpose in life.
in part. Self-development is for everybody. It's a need. We think it's a luxury. So yes, the people who consider themselves generally healthy, they don't really rock bottom a lot in life. They're kind of like, you could say coasting along or not, or just things are going well. They might see that as a luxury, but I would also wager a guess that if you see self-development as a luxury, you might need self-development, because why do you see it as a luxury? If you see it as a luxury, that's implying that you can't afford it, right? Whether it's time you can't afford or it's the money you can't afford. So if you can't afford it, that means there's an area to work on in your life, right? That's an area to self-develop in your life. And I'm not forcing self-develop. Do what you want. But if you're saying, I want to do self-development, but it's a luxury, the fact that you think it's a luxury is a sign that self-development can help you, because it doesn't have to be a luxury. Okay, but also there are millions of people out there who have been rock bottomed with their health, with love, with finances, and life has showed them, God has shown them that self-development is not a luxury. You need self-development or else you can't go on. So like, I just think one way or another, people are going to find themselves to self-development, no matter who you are. If you're rock bottoming in life, if you are super like kind of settling, coasting, bored as fuck, feeling stuck, again, self-development. If you're doing really well in life, well, then you can afford self-development. And if you want to get to the next level, self-development can get you there. The only people who I would say like don't need it are the people that are like, I'm moving up in my life, I'm satisfied in life, I'm happy in life. And honestly, there are people like that. And I think we need people like that on this earth because, and not to say everything's perfect for them, going back to that vibe, they have challenges. They can just navigate it on their own. I know a couple people like this. They just kind of like figure shit out. Maybe they've used the self-development a little bit in the past, but they're just kind of like people who like, they just have their simple lives and they like it, or they're not simple. They're just like growing. They just have the self-development piece kind of in a way figured out within them. And I'm sure, Ida, you know, the human design profile. I know there's a human design profile type where it's like bonus life, you know, like you just kind of like have shit in a way figured out. And I think we need some of those people who aren't interested in self-development and they like are doing just fine in their life because they're like stable. They're like stable people that like have the vibe, they have the flow going, you know, and then some of us, it could be a rockier path. That's the case for me for sure. And like, yeah, so like, I just wanted to mention that part, going back to this whole thing of like self-development isn't accessible. You will get shown if you're being led to self-development, and it's inevitable. It's going to be inevitable, you know?
Yeah. You know what I think? And I just realized that this is what I think. And I guess it's based off of the kind of stages that I said I was processing. I feel like everyone is developing, whether they're aware of it or not.
Yeah.
And I think when we talk about self-development, what we're really talking about is the action part. Let me land.
Okay.
In that, I think the action part is where you need another person to kind of propel you forward to take action, whether it's through a book, you read someone else's book and they're like, you know, this and this and that. And then you're like, new idea, let me try that. Or like, I feel like the action part in terms of like, you're ready to open yourself up to other possibilities. Yeah, I feel like that's what we're referring to personal development as, but I feel like generally everyone is developing because I'm looking at like people, even here in Ghana, like I'm in the city, people who are in villages, they're self-developing, but their ways like through farming, through having close contact with the earth, you know, through like grounding, walking barefoot, through dancing, through stuff like they are self-developing, they are growing. But obviously, if it comes to like, maybe they decided, you know what, I want to show the world what I'm capable of, or I want to open myself to another opportunity, then they could reach out to someone and say, hey, can you teach me that? Or they can decide to pick up a book and expand. I feel like we need to differentiate between that, because I think that's why it becomes a luxury for some, because for some, they don't necessarily see the value in it. I don't think it's a matter of like, they don't want it, but it's like they don't see the value in it. One, because maybe they are already developing one way or another, and they don't see the value in, extending their arm out, like kind of reaching out to someone or kind of broadening their knowledge, or they haven't noticed that, okay, that's valuable as well, because you can only go as far as, and I don't want to say, this is it. I kind of feel like you learn more about yourself the more, you open yourself to bigger opportunities, right? Like you can't say you know everything about yourself if you've only lived in one city your whole life, right? Because the Ida in the village might be different to the Ida in the city. The Ida who goes to Europe will be different to the Ida who's in Australia, So I kind of feel like that's where it comes to play, like seeing the value in putting yourself in different environments. And that's the action piece. I feel like personal development, as me and you know it, in terms of like this, that we've created a whole career around, or like a whole industry around, is about putting yourself in different environments, And until people feel the need to put themselves in a different environment, they don't see the value in personal developing in a sense of the industry.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And like, whether we like it or not, like you say, Ida, in the very literal translation of personal development, if we're living, we're growing as people by default. No matter what we do, we're growing as people. So exactly. Yeah, I mean it more as an intentional thing. And like you said, needing external support, I guess, would be something. And I like farmers are a great example of people that I would say this is like a stereotype, but I've just seen a lot of examples of this. They don't search for anything outside of themselves. They're just very grounded every day, dealing with what's in front of them. And that in itself is a personal development journey, because they're just living and growing no matter what. But they're not looking into the self-development industry, the coaching industry. They're not even possibly reading books and like learning like that. They're just learning from nature. And it's just, they're letting that natural, very, very natural, in a way, unintentional process happen. And not everyone's seeing the value in it, but I think I just see this wave of people just one way or another. If you're meant to be into the coaching industry, it will happen.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, I see it as, yes, we're all growing, whether we like it or not, in whatever environment we're in, but it's about how big do you want to grow? Like, I feel like it's about allowing yourself to expand, because you can just grow, right? It's kind of like when you put, the funny thing, okay, the best example for me is when I came to Ghana, I'm looking everywhere and I'm like, I'm seeing rubber plant. Do you know what the rubber plant is? In Australia, we call it the rubber plant. Can you Google it and show it to people? Because I think it's gonna make. But Google indoor rubber plants.
Oh, yeah.
Did it come up?
Uh-huh. Okay, one sec. All right, let me share.
Yeah, hopefully what was gonna come through will still come through.
Yeah. Okay, view. Yes, start share, desktop, share.
Okay, this is the rubber plant, just for people, because I think everyone knows it, but I don't know what people call it.
This, like something like that?
Yeah, so open it so it's large so people can see. Because yeah, in Australia, I had a rubber plant. And I love rubber plants, right? Oh,
Mhm.
but I need to see you to talk about it. So once it shows,
Oh, you can't see me?
I can, but you're in the little corner. I think once you show the photo, we'll let it go.
Hold on,
Just
it's not loading. Let me get this one. There we go.
okay. For the sake of the people who don't know, this is a rubber plant. Okay, now I get to share. Okay, so basically, in Australia, this is what I know a rubber plant as. And this is how big I thought a rubber plant could grow. Because every time I'd seen a rubber plant, it looked like this. Right? Because everyone, like everywhere, whenever you go and buy a rubber plant, everyone talks about rubber plant. This is the idea. This is what I knew rubber plants as. So anyway, here I am in Ghana. I'm at this place. I look outside the window and I see the same leaves, the same everything. And it's a massive tree.
Oh.
And I'm like, is this a rubber plant? Oh my goodness.
Wow.
You know? And my point is like, for if you can allow yourself to grow as this rubber plant in this pot, because it's still growing. When I had it in Australia in this pot, it was still growing, it was still thriving, it was fine. But that rubber plant could become a massive tree. And I didn't even know that. So if you're a rubber plant and you've been put indoors for so long, you feel like you can only grow and thrive in that environment, in that capacity. But when you're put outside in a different environment, you become this massive, and I'm talking a massive tree,
Wow.
And yet everyone has rubber plants indoors as this tiny plant, you know? So I guess that's a point. Like, how much do you want to grow and thrive? You can thrive in like, the definition of thriving in one environment is different from the definition of thriving in another. In one environment, thriving could be being in a big pot in somebody's room and just thriving in that regard, or being outside and really expanding and becoming this giant of a tree that cannot be contained, you know? So what do you want? And I feel like personal development in a form of what we're talking about, where you're reaching out, gives you that ability to become all that you are, because you're dabbling, you're trying different things, you're putting on different clothes and try, okay, does this fit, does this doesn't fit. Imagine if nobody knew that you could put rubber plant outside and it could blossom into this massive tree. We would all grow it in different homes, and who knows, maybe it has a thing to do with climate as well, because I never saw a massive rubber plant in Australia.
Right.
But I came to Ghana and I'm like, oh my God, they're everywhere. And they're big trees. Wow. You know? So I guess really and truly it's about, because you know what? Me and you could right now be like, you know, we've developed enough. We've done great. Let's stop here. And we could literally stop here and we've achieved so much. But
So true.
Is that what we want though?
Yeah.
No, because there's a deeper calling, like where this rubber plant, who knows that it could become a tree, and we're no longer satisfied being in a pot in somebody's bedroom. We want to become this massive tree, and we want to, you know, go into different environments. It's not going to be comfortable. I'm sure, you know, it would die. We would die a couple of times in different environments. And when I say die, obviously you get me. It's not literal death.
Right.
Dying to our old self, dying to the
Ego
old
death.
identity, you know, dying to you know, that old identity, the identity right now. Because right now, you've stepped into a millionaire's identity. Whether you're experiencing that or not, you need to die to the Emily who, you know, was drinking and, you know, living that life. You had to die. Yeah. Emily's dead, you know, but you learned so much from her. Right now, this Emily is a millionaire, and it's like, you can no longer associate with the Emily of your past. It doesn't mean it didn't help you get here, but that's not who you are anymore. Vice versa. So it's kind of like, for me, it's about how far are we willing to take ourselves? Like, how how far, because I don't even want to say how far do we want to push ourselves, because I don't even think we're pushing ourselves. All we're doing is putting ourselves in different environments and adjusting to that environment and growing with that environment. You know, it's like, okay, I want to be a millionaire. Which environment? Oh, it's this environment. Okay.
I know, right?
Oh my God. And eventually we're like thriving in that environment. You know,
100%. I love this. This is your analogies are the best. I just
don't even know where they come from.
They're amazing. I love Ida's analogies for stuff. The plants, like, so good. About our old selves dying. I have an interesting feeling about that. Want to know if you also resonate. I still, and I think most people would say this, I agree with what you said about the old Emily had to die in the sense of what my days looked like, what I was thinking in my head, what my goals were. I didn't really have any goals. Like, or my lack of goals, that had to die. Yeah, the stuff that I allowed into my life, that all died. But it's like the spirit of Emily lives, the old Emily lives within me.
Yeah.
Rebel, who gives a fuck, that kind of thing.
Lol.
What, like, just going for it. Like, here's the thing that I really appreciated about myself as a drunk. I didn't give a shit because I was drunk. So I would say stuff and do crazy things. Oh my God. Let me tell a little story. And then I want to hear what you feel about the old Ida. So one night, this is when I was a cocktail waitress in art school, drinking all the time. I got away with drinking a lot because I could create these amazing paintings. And I was able to convince my art teachers to sign a sheet that said I didn't have to take any business courses and I didn't have to take all the classes that I didn't want because I just wanted to paint and drink and do the easy stuff. What I saw was easy. So that's what my life looked like at the time. And I was out at the bars and I didn't know this at the time, but it was my intuition telling me, you are gonna moon people tonight. Do you use that phrase in Australia or
what?
Moon people, like you show your butt, your naked butt to someone?
Oh no, I didn't. No, I didn't know that's what it's called. Oh,
we call it moon, like your butt's a moon because it's like bright, you know, it's like white. And in my case, it's bright white. So I had this intuitive feeling that I was gonna moon people, but I didn't know it was an intuitive feeling. And I was out drinking at the bar, getting drunk. And I was like, I hope I don't moon anyone tonight. and then we were about to go home, end of the night, randomly. My friends are pulling out, we're on a public street. My friends are pulling out in their car. I run in front of their car and I moon them because I was so drunk. I didn't know what I was doing. Okay. Random story, but that part of Emily, even though it wasn't the sober me, it was still me. It was the part that I was trying to get to. Like, part of the spiritual reason for me drinking so much was, one, I felt insecure about who I was, but two, I didn't want to feel insecure about who I was. I wanted to be free. I mean, I said some crazy shit to people and very harmful, mean things to people. And all of that, I believe, was not because I was a bad person, but because there was so much I kept inside of my mind. I wanted to just shoot it all out, you know, and it all had to do with my insecurities, what I didn't feel good about myself, all of that. But I wanted to like have an outlet for this. I didn't have talk therapy. I didn't have any support. The most support I had was talking to a friend, as we do, which can be great, but my friends weren't, someone who could hold that for me.
Yeah.
So like, I'm saying all this because that part of Emily is like what I've allowed to stick with me and what I've transformed into this person here who's like
naked on this call. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a cool thing for me. Like that's cool to me that I'm comfortable enough to do this. And I think like it's like this whole vibe of like everything is everything, you know, like yes, the old Emily died. Yes, I at times I feel like a completely different person. And then at other times I'm like, I'm still that Emily. I just found healthier, wholesome, positive, inspiring ways to be that Emily. But it's this, if you boil everything down, it's the same thing. I'm just not getting drunk. I'm like letting myself be myself. I'm bringing up these thoughts or these feelings or these resistance or these aggressions. I just bring them up in conversation now to discuss them in public instead of holding them in and then projecting them onto someone, you know? So what do you think about all this, Ide?
Yeah, no, literally once you started, I had this moment because it's like I already knew what you were gonna say. It hit me and I'm like, oh my God, yeah, this is where she's going with this, but it unfolded beautifully in that the death I'm talking about is not necessarily like your essence or who you are. It's like, you know, dying to self, like the shadow, your shadow dying, because I feel like at the end of the day, we're who we are, but are we being ourselves consciously or unconsciously, right? So unconscious is when we will reach out to other stuff because people around us tell us, no, you can't be like that. And we know we have to be like that because we cannot live our life without being our true self. So we reach 100%. For substances, we reach for something to at least be a mask to let us, so at least even if something happens, we're like, oh, it's because I was drunk. But no, it's because that's who we are, but we just didn't feel secure, safe enough to express that, you know? Yeah. So that part of us dying, that the part of us that didn't feel safe or secure enough, you know, the shadow part, and like rising into this self where we're conscious and we're consciously being ourselves, like you're connected that, you know, you're no longer hiding that Emily. It's like as time goes on, you're beginning to accept Emily more and more. And it's like, it's okay for you to speak your mind. It's okay for you to still moon people if you wanted to.
Okay. As long as I have their consent.
Exactly. You know, and as long as it's like, it feels good and it's like, you no longer have to hide that part of you, you know? And so I kind of feel like it's really the shadow that dies, and it's a shadow that reaches for unhealthy stuff, as you beautifully said, you know, to hide. But right now it's like, okay, how can I not hide anymore? Like, and I know that there's more Emily to be expressed. Like this Emily I'm seeing right now is not even the Emily I'm gonna, you know.
Not even.
Exactly. And so it's really beautiful to watch you unfold. But obviously it helps me tap into my past as well, where it's like, you know, when I shared my story the other day on my page, where it's like at the age of 12, I told my dad I know my rights. And it's like, I've always wanted to express myself. I've always known to express myself, but it's like, I'm not allowed to do it. And so I found the rebel without cause, you know, doing it in ways that were not productive, ways that were tearing down, ways that were not building up, you know, but then now, just like yourself, expressing myself in ways that are building up, you know, now giving people their voice as well. People get to reach out and be like, hey, I want to say something. And it's like, so basically it's like, I'm still Ida, but the Ida who no longer needs to, you know, hide in a form of like, you know, being difficult as people were describing. And I get why people were describing it as me being difficult, because it's like you're kind of going against, you're like, you know, and it doesn't have to be that, you know, it could just be, and this is something that, again, it's become my message, like it doesn't have to be you know, so protective and so like hard. It gets to be soft, it gets to melt into, you know, we get to express ourselves without hurting anyone else, you know, whereas before it's like, well, I'm gonna get my word, I don't care how you feel about it, you know. And I guess that's where I am right now, and it's beautiful and it's unfolding, and I'm letting it unfold. Obviously it comes with challenges because I'm always going to be reminded of, you know, don't speak up, but me still speaking up when that shows up, when that fear shows up, you know. But yeah, and I guess that's the beauty of it all, you know.
Exactly. I love it. I love how you put it. It's so cool I just love, I just have to take a moment and say, like, I love how the way we each look at life comes together, right? You have this, yeah, you have your perspective and I have my perspective, but we're vibing on that. And like each perspective, I think, enriches the other, right? It's cool.
Exactly. And I think the beauty, one thing I'm starting to notice is that there's beauty in differentiation, there's beauty in correctness. When Emily is expressing in a way that's correct for her, it's safe for me to be in her presence because it's correct for her, right? And so we could have different opinions, but we're still going to thrive in the same environment because we're expressing in a correct way. I no longer say in a right way, because I don't believe in right or wrong, but I believe in what's correct for me and what's correct for you. And I feel like in that environment, there's no like, you know, loggerheads, there's no like friction, because it's like, that's correct for her, and that's correct for her. Like, we don't need to, you know, like go at each other. We don't need to challenge each other and be like, no, but this, no, it's like, that's correct for and I'm seeing the God in her and I bow to that, vice versa, you know. That's how I see it.
Seeing the God in each other, that's just so beautiful, you know. It's so beautiful and so true. Like, there's so much truth. I hear that and I'm like, that's just it, you know. That's it.
I wish we could all just get to that point where we're seeing the God in each other. And I think we kind of brought up this point the other. It's like God expressing differently through different people, you know, and yet it's so correct for the person. So it's like, how dare I come and say, why are you saying that? No, because it's just, I wish we could all just be in awe of, wow, like being reverence to, oh my God, okay, I see you. Yeah. This is how God is expressing. Like, I see Beyonce dancing and I'm like, wow, okay. Or I see someone play guitar, like they really, and I'm like, oh my God, that's another way God's expressing himself. I see you saying boat run and I'm like, oh my God, that's God. Like, it's all God in different forms. And it's like, wow, you know, imagine if all of us were at our peak, expressing in our highest octave. Oh my God, it would be so magical, you know, to see everyone just being their best. Can you imagine a world where everyone's just like, and yet it was correct for everybody and no one dares to be like, oh, you know, no, you can't do that.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. You know, the crazy thing, I kind of feel like the world is gonna become that at some point. It will. Right? Okay, you have that feeling too.
I feel that same way too. And I think it goes back to what we were saying the last time. In the end, God wins.
God wins.
How? I don't know how, but I just feel that love is gonna win. And love is just each and every one of us, really, I believe, expressing to our highest, like our greatest expression, where it's like, if I wanted to walk out naked right now, it's okay. It shouldn't bother anyone, obviously. Like, I know there are, you know, certain rules and regulations, and I honor that. But just for the sake of this conversation, where it's like, even if you saw someone walking naked, you just know, oh, that's correct for them, let them be. If you saw someone walking barefoot, it's like, it doesn't need to infringe on my private, like, how does that bother me?
Exactly.
Like, it shouldn't really, let them do their thing.
Yeah.
And just watch or don't watch, and it's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have to do with you, you know, which it's another conversation because it's interesting. We can be traumatized by stuff we just see from afar, even though it doesn't involve us, right? Like, if we see someone, I saw this a lot in New York, like people hitting other people, people
Oh
hitting their kids.
yeah, that no, that is very that's very traumatizing. So we're not talking about hurting people. We're talking about, love in a form of, things that like edify each and every one of us. Like we see people, for instance, if it was raining and a bunch of women thought we want to go and jump in the rain naked, they should be allowed to do that, and it shouldn't affect, like, they're not hurting anyone. I feel like whatever anyone is doing, as long as it's not physically, mentally, emotionally hurting anyone, we should all just applaud it. And it's beautiful. Like it's an art.
Yeah.
They're dancing in the rain naked. It's an art form. Why can't we see it as it's a masterpiece? Oh my days. Like, wow. Hey, do I have the permission to take a photo of this? Can I capture it?
Girl, I gotta say something real quick. I'm realizing as we're talking. So I learned this, interestingly enough, from Meg Dahl. She's studying somatic stuff, like nervous system stuff. And you know a lot about the nervous system. Curious to hear what you think. She says trauma is just anything that is that's like a shock to your nervous system. It's just anything that's too fast for your nervous system. Would you in general agree with that?
I see where that's coming from. How I look at it is when your mind and body are not on the same page, which could be the same, but that's how I see it. It's kind of like, your mind does something before your body is ready for it. So for instance, this example might not be great because I might need to put a disclaimer. I'm trying to see what else. That would have been the best example.
Can we put a disclaimer and just, you can say it?
No, leave it, because you know how now but that's how I see it. I feel like when your mind goes before your body. Okay. So it's kind of like something happens before your body is ready for it. That's how I see it. So I see where it's also coming from. So it's kind of like, it's very traumatizing. For instance, okay, maybe we were doing CCC and our mind was ready for it, but our body wasn't. It's very traumatizing for the body. It's traumatic because it's like you're making the body do something that it's not ready to do, but your mind, it makes sense to your mind, but it doesn't make sense to your body yet. And you still put your body through it. And so that freezes your body in that moment. Whenever your body sees something in a similar way, it freezes, or like it will go to fight or freeze, because it's kind of like, oh no, not again, like the last time so that's how I see it. But I'm open to hearing this perspective.
The way that I'm hearing what you're saying and the way that I read what Meg was saying, it's sounding
very similar.
Because I think her words actually were too soon for the nervous system. So it's too soon. It's like it's a shock to the nervous system. Okay. So with the naked example, seeing people run naked, if I'm thinking about that, that could be traumatizing for, like, I go to this example of little kids, that could be traumatizing for them to see an adult naked, or it's known, like, I know that there are some therapists,
but their body is not like they're not ready for that. They're not.
Yes. So some therapists, I've heard some therapists say, kids seeing their parents naked can be traumatizing. So, but here's the thing. I believe that it's only, I'm realizing this hearing you now, it's only traumatizing because we never see people naked. It's only traumatizing because that is not worked into many societies in the world.
Exactly.
If it was part of our society, it wouldn't be traumatizing because they would grow up with it. It wouldn't be a shock.
Because in Africa, it was never a problem. Like, I remember growing up, we used to look, when it rains, all the kids in the neighborhood, we would strip. Sometimes some adults would jump in the rain, and it was a normal thing. Like, there was nothing sexual about it. It was just a normal play, and it was like a normal thing. And here in Ghana, we call them mad people, but I think they're like mentally ill, but they walk around naked. and no one bothers them. It's okay.
Wow.
Like they're not locked up or anything. We've actually left them. So when you happen to come to Ghana, you see naked people.
Wow.
Like, they're totally naked. You know, they're having their own personal conversation. They get to buy. No one does anything to them. Like they're still a part of the society, but they chose to live naked because they're not mentally fully there. But that's okay. You know, they shout outside, like they'll get water and just shout. Like it's normal here. No one sees it. And even like, and it's kids are everywhere. It's it's not like, oh my God, but imagine someone in the West, even if they were mentally ill and they just
you get arrested. They fucking arrest you in the States.
Here they're not arrested. They're walking around naked all the time. Like, you know, it's so normal. Yeah. It's so normal. Like, and in the city too. Not just in the city, you be in a car and you're like, oh, okay, where's this one go? And I'm talking naked from head to toe. Like they're not wearing, they're not wearing any like undies or anything. They're totally boobs, pump with like vagina, penis on it.
Wow.
Like, but it's normal. It's okay. Yeah. So as you said, it's the environment that makes something wrong. Whereas here we see it as, oh, it's one of those things. Oh, well, you know, they chose to do that. That's okay. Yeah. You know?
Yeah.
And it's funny because come to think of it, it's such a, like, it doesn't become a conversation. Like if a person, we call them mad people, if a mad person, for lack of a better word, was walking, we're not going to stop and have a conversation and be like, oh my God, look at this person. It's a normal thing. Everyone's going about their business, you know?
I love
like, oh,
that.
You choose to do your day naked. Okay, go you. I'm putting on clothes.
Right. And then I'm guessing that there probably aren't, if there were enough problems with the folks like that, then you guys probably would take action against that. But clearly there's not big enough problems with those people where you have to do anything about it. Why? Because they're accepted. Like when we don't accept people and make it a big deal, that's when it becomes more. Or
sometimes they cause harm. Like there was a time an Uber driver, I was in an Uber and an Uber driver drove past us. Windscreen shattered, back mirror shattered, like back screen shattered. And he was mad. So in the traffic light, my Uber driver asks, hey, what's going on? I was like, some mad woman just picked up a stick and just shattered all my glasses.
Wow.
And all my windows. And then we're like, oh, what could you have done? Nothing. What can you do?
Yeah.
You know? But I know in the West, it'll be like obviously it's not nice because the guy was like, you know, I felt like, you know, obviously getting out and like hitting her, but I didn't. And then I was like, because like, she didn't mean to, even though she did, like, she just felt like doing that. It's not okay, but she just, you know, so it's not like they're not causing any form of, like, sometimes they could be walking, they'll pick something, they'll steal something.
Right.
You could be selling, they'll just take it and run. But I think it's accepted that, you know, that's how these people are living their life. They're not 100% there. And therefore we don't hold them responsible for what they're not consciously doing.
Wow, know? That's wild, man. Yeah, and it's just, we're just, you know, I was gonna say we're just a product of our environment, and we're not. We're so much more than that, I believe. But our environment has so much to do with.
It does. It really does.
With all this stuff.
And all the things, like our definition, you know, I think you know me, going back to redefine stuff, because boy, a lot of things have been told to us. A lot of things mean one thing that doesn't, you know, all words don't mean the same thing to different people. Yes, you go to the dictionary, it says one thing, but it doesn't resonate with me. So what? You know?
Exactly. That's such a great way that like I could also describe my life experience. Like definitions of words, it's happened to me a lot where people have, I mean, I try to be responsible and not like mislead people with my words. Yeah. I explain what I mean. Like yesterday on the live, the Instagram live that I did, I said several times, I'm always right. You know, and people are like, wait a second, explain. And I was explaining the whole time, but like, and it's a mindset. We won't go into it. It's the same idea of like, I don't find it helpful to regret stuff.
even if I owe someone an apology, I believe that I made the right decision, all that.
Yeah.
But like people tell me the definition of words and I'm just like, that just doesn't mean anything to, it doesn't
Yeah,
speak.
it's like, no.
Yeah.
Like, who came up with that definition? And funnily enough, when you go to the actual, the origin of the word, it means something completely different.
Yeah, it's like, what world are we living in? You know what I'm saying?
Like for me, I think we had this conversation where I told you, for me, the ancient Egyptian definition of procrastination works better for me because which is waiting for the right time. So as
are
in
you
the West,
serious?
in the West, we say putting things off. Ancient Egypt defines it as waiting for the right time. So it's like, for me, that resonates with me. Because whenever I'm procrastinating, really, I'm waiting for the right time. I'm not putting something off.
100%. Ida, I'm gonna credit you, and I'm gonna talk about this all day on the stories.
Yeah, go for it.
Because girl,
and for me, that was like life changing, and that's what made me. That's what made me wanted to go into the productivity thing. But I was like, no, that's not entirely who I am. But it's still part of my message. It's like, how are we seeing words? Like, are we even going to the original? For me, I see a word and I'm like, no. Because one thing is, everyone keeps saying, oh, when you're procrastinating, you're putting things, and I kept saying no. When I'm actually procrastinating, I'm not putting things off. I'm procrastinating on purpose. I used to say I'm procrastinating on purpose.
I know.
And then I was like, no, there's got to be something else. There's got to be another. And so I started to dig. Me and my digging, and I was just digging. I'm like, boom, here we go. I knew it couldn't only be putting things off, because that's not what I'm doing, and I'm sure a lot of people can resonate. They're not putting things off. They're waiting for the right time, the right time in their body, the right time in their mind, the right time for them to have the right energy to do it,
100%. This is fucking amazing. It's so true. It's so true. And it's like, it's expressed through what I'm doing with just intuitive living, intuitive business. Just
exactly.
I do what I want to do. It's the same thing, right? Like for me, it looks like the same thing. Waiting for the right time for me is the same thing as doing what I want to do. Because if it doesn't feel right, I don't want to do it. I'm procrastinating. And
it doesn't mean you're putting it off.
Right. I love it.
And whenever you wait for the right time, your way comes through. Because imagine if you kept pushing, hustling, and you didn't put things off or wait for the right time to find your way. You never find your way. You're always gonna feel like, I'm putting things like, seriously, sometimes I'm just like, you know what?
It's just another one of these things that, like, oh, man, and I feel like we go back to this a lot, which makes sense because it's involved in both of our messages in what we do for a living, but like, and how we live. There are traditions or things or ideas or rules in society, but they don't make any fucking sense.
They don't.
And we do it and we think it and we perpetuate it. But we know that they don't make sense, and we talk about how they don't make sense. And we sometimes we say, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And then we continue to do it. Why?
I think it has to do with belonging, but I know if we get into this, we're not going.
I know.
It's gonna be a whole new, so no more new topics.
Right. I feel like this is a great place to close.
Yeah, definitely.
Sweet.
Definitely.
This was awesome.
I loved it.
Thank you guys.
Were we alone? Did we have any?
I think we had a viewer or two on here, but no comments. But hey, you guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching the replay, leave us a comment, subscribe if you like what we're doing here, like this video so we can get it to more people. We want to empower a lot of people and get our message out there. If you can help us, and if you got something out of this, talk about it, share about it. Thank you guys so much. Thanks, Ide.
Thank you. Should we do something random that's just coming to my mind, where it's like, because it's nice for viewers to come and listen, but to kind of get them engaged, some form of incentive. Feel free, even though it's recording, you can say no. And I know we're good like that. But it just popped up into my mind, like, because it's nice to hear what, you know, the viewers kind of like, what they're thinking as well. But I think sometimes people don't feel like, oh, can I say something? But you can, you know?
Yeah, I mean, what's coming up for me now is like, I would love to offer that, but I would want you to plan it and like share about it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That's
Amazing.
cool.
I'm excited to see incentive. Like I would love to see whatever comes to Ida intuitively about how you want to set that up.
How we can incentivize. And it's basically just to, and I feel like we have the same intention. The intention is to equip, edify, and give the viewers a voice as well. And not, they shouldn't have to feel like, oh, you know, when I come here, I can just like be a part of the conversation. It's okay.
Yeah.
Even if we're not responding, you get to still put your view and be like, oh, okay, that's an interesting whatever, you know. But yeah, let's see what comes up.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm super down to see that and support it. And I do check the comments when I'm on here, guys. Whether it be if you're watching the replay and you comment, or if you're commenting live, periodically I do check the comments while Ida and I are talking. So just know that we will get to it in the course of our recording here, and afterwards in the replay comments. So don't be shy.
Yay.
All right, okay, I'm gonna take us off YouTube.
Yeah.
And then I'll